Hey guys, in this video we're going to do kinetic energy. So hope you're thinking straight away, I know what kinetic energy is, and if you don't, this video is for you. And if you want more revision, remember you can always go to my resources, and if you want to join our live lessons, I'd love to have you there, you can click the link in the description. So, kinetic energy, what is it? Hope you're thinking kinetic is anything that is moving. You might have had those like little kinetic toys. So kinetic energy is anything that is moving. Okay, so moving objects have kinetic energy. So if I was to think about me walking, that's very little kinetic energy. If I was to go running, I've got more kinetic energy. If I was to think about my cycling versus a sports car, the sports car will have more kinetic energy because it'll go faster. If I was thinking about my sports car versus an airplane, the airplane has got more kinetic energy because it can go faster. So it's to do with anything that's moving, and the faster that things go, the more the kinetic energy that they have. Okay, so kinetic energy, obviously it's an energy. So energy, we know, is always measured in joules with a capital J. And there's an equation. The equation is on your formula sheet, but this one comes up a lot. So it's nice if you can get a rhyme to remember it. One of the students in our year 10 classes gave me a lovely rhyme that I really like. So she said, we're going to remember, is eating half of my vegetables twice. Okay, so again, she said eating half of my vegetables twice. So because you eat half of them twice, you eat all of them, right? So what it says is that our energy, that's our kinetic energy. We know kinetic energy is always measured in joules, is equal to a half. Now, a half is just 1 divided by 2. So an easy way to put it in your calculator is just 0.5. M, we always know, stands for a mass in physics, and masses in physics are always measured, remember, in kilograms. And I'm going to put that in red because that's one people always forget. Mass is always measured in kilograms. Now, V on your equation sheet says it stands for speed. And we're just going to talk about this for a little second because you might be like, why does it V then if it's speed? V actually stands for a word called velocity. So velocity is basically the same thing as speed. When you do year 11 physics, you know that velocity is a thing called a vector. So what a vector is, it just means that we always give it a number and a direction. So for example, the velocity might be 10 meters per second up, where for speed, it's a thing called a scalar. Again, you learn about that in year 11. But speed only has a number then, right? It only has a magnitude. Magnitude just means number. So the speed, we'd only just write 10 meters per second. So again, if you think about it, velocity just gives you a bit of extra information. It just tells you what way the car's going. So for example, if I was a policeman and I said the car's going at 80 miles per hour, they're speeding, that's not really helpful to anybody. That's their speed, right? But if I told them their velocity, they're going 80 miles per hour towards London, then another cop can go catch them or another policeman can go catch them, right? Because they know what direction they're heading in. So that V just stands for the velocity, just give a direction. So you can see you can use either word you want, speed or velocity, because they both have the same unit, right? They're both the same number. Still 10, still meters per second, but that's just why we can use that word speed or velocity. And you got to remember what this means, squared. Okay, so squared just means you multiply the number by itself. So for example, if I was to look at what 4 squared means, that means 4 times 4, which gave me 16. If I was to look at what 5 squared is, that means 5 times 5, which gave me 25. Okay, so squared just means you multiply by itself. Please remember, it's only that speed, it's only that velocity that is squared, nothing else. So let's look at some examples. So it says, I want to calculate the kinetic energy of a car. So this question's nice. They told me we're calculating the kinetic energy of a car if it's moving at 70 meters per second. This will be a 3 marker in your exam. So to calculate kinetic energy, I remember my formula, or I can go to my formula sheet, but I know that to calculate the kinetic energy, I've been eating half of my vegetables twice. So kinetic energy is a half of the mass times speed squared. To calculate the energy, what we do is a half in my calculator, which is 0.5, times by the mass, because they're beside each other. They told me that here the mass is always measured in kilograms. That's my 2,000. Times by that speed squared. Remember, speed is that number in meters per second. So that's why we're going to do 70, and then it's the 70 that we square, right? Remember, make sure you square it. Now, that's a lot in one go, so we're going to break it down. When I calculate the energy, what I do first is a half of 2,000. A half of 2,000 is 1,000. And I'm multiplying by 70 squared. So my calculator, the first thing I do is my 70 squared, 70 times 70, or you can use that squared button in your calculator, and we get 4,900. So I'm doing 1,000 times 4,900, and what you're going to get then is 4900,000 joules, because the energy is always measured in joules. Okay, so then if you look at that there, that's 4900,000 joules. Okay, so that's our 3 marks. Again, remember, it's only the speed that you square. And then the little button in your calculator, remember, it's just that little, it looks like a little X squared button in your calculator. So next one says, calculate the speed a girl runs at. Okay, now this one is the one that people have some problems with. And some people in school try to do equation triangles, but we're not using equation triangles because we're smarter than that, right? We're going to do A-level physics. We're going to be pros this because we love physics. So we're going to learn how to rearrange. And again, it's nice to do. You'll start to love it. You'll start to see it's easy. So I want to calculate the speed of a girl runs if she has 8 kilojoules of energy and a mass of 60 kilograms. First thing you're thinking is that warning again, right? They're trying to test me to see, did I spot the units? There's my warning. They give me 8 kilojoules, but I know energy is measured in joules. So I think, what is that really? So remember, how we do it is someone give me 1K of cash, that means they give me £1,000. If someone give me 5K of cash, that means hopefully they give me They give me £5,000. So that K is just a fast way of saying that we're going to multiply by 1,000. So they have 8K or 8 kilojoules. What we really have is an energy of 8,000 joules. Okay, that's how much energy we really have. So that's my energy. So it says, I want to calculate the speed she runs at. So I'm thinking if someone's running at a speed and we're talking about energy, I think what type of energy does someone have if they have a speed, right? That means they're moving fast. Someone's moving, they have kinetic energy. So that's how I know to use my equation for kinetic energy. Eating half of my vegetables twice. Energy is half the mass times the speed squared. So we were told the energy this time. Energy is always that number in joules. 8,000 equals a half, which is 0.5, times the mass. So I'm looking for a mass, which is in kilograms. That's my 60, times by some speed squared. I don't know the speed. Okay, that looks like a lot. So let's just simplify it. So my next line is going to be is 8,000 is a half of 60. A half of 60, let's just break it down, is going to be 30. So it's 30 times by v squared. Now, I only want to know what the speed is, right? I just want that v squared. So I think, what do I do to this side of the equation just to get the v squared by itself? And I don't want to this multiplied by 30, so to get rid of multiplied by 30, we have to do the opposite of it. The opposite of multiplying by 30 is dividing by 30. And remember, what we do to one side, you have to do the other. So this side, we also have to divide by 30. So what we're putting in our calculator is that 8,000 divided by 30. So our calculator, we're going to do 8,000 divided by 30, and we get a number there of, a horrible number, but anyway, your calculator will say 266.66666. Okay, so hopefully you're thinking, I need to round here. So remember, the rule is, if the number is above 5, we have to round up. So what my v squared is, 266.67 is what my v squared is. Okay, because remember, we have to round up. So 266.67, because the number is above 5, we have to round up, is my v squared. And so many people want to stop here, but we're not finished because it just wants the speed. It doesn't want the speed squared. So we have to get v by itself. So what we're thinking now is, how do I get v by itself? If v squared is this number, how do I get v? So we're thinking we do the opposite. To get rid of something, we do the opposite of it. So the opposite of squaring is square rooting. And when we do one side, do the other. So what I have to do now is I use that square root button in my calculator, and I have to take the square root of this number, 266.67. So I'm going to do the square root button in my calculator of 266.67 to think what that speed is, and I get 16.33. So 16.33 is my speed. Remember, speed is always measured in meters per second. So meters per second is my final answer. So she is a superwoman. She's Wonder Woman because no girl is running that speed. Okay, so she is running super fast. You also need to know, actually, and fun fact, you do need to know this later, but you're going to learn later, you need to know what a typical human running speed is. And a typical human, the average human, can run at 3 meters per second. That's a number you need to know. So she is running really, really fast. So she's superhuman. So she's Wonder Woman. But yeah, so remember, we break it down. We did a half of 60 first to get 30. And then we think, how do we get rid of that 30? The opposite of multiplying is dividing. We did one side, we did to the other. So what we did again was our 8,000 divided by 30. we do 8,000 divided by 30, we got 266.67, because we have to round up because the numbers were at 5. We're not finished because that's v squared. To get v, we take the square root of both sides. And done. So, if you find the video helpful, just remember to hit that like and subscribe.